Welcome to episode 8 of Built. I get a lot of questions about weatherboard buildings in my work as a pre-purchase property inspector. So in this episode I'm going to have a look at weatherboard buildings and define what you need to understand about them when you're thinking about buying a weatherboard building. First I'm going to look at their history though, because that's a good place to start. The first houses built in Australia were timber, either simple bark or wattle and daub huts. These were built with very basic tools and no sawn timber. Both methods had timbers directly in the ground and building methods that allowed water into the structure, thus they rotted out very quickly. Today there are very few remains of these buildings, and those that do remain are usually in low rainfall areas or have been incorporated into later buildings. After the Great Fire of London in 1666, the growing cities of England were built of brick and stone. Timber was used only as a spanning material for floors and roofs. In England in the 1830s, timber construction was a rural skill. The officers' quarters at Eaglehawk Neck dates from about 1832 and has some of the earliest timber construction still remaining in Tasmania. The officers' quarters has bits of split timber, pit sawn timber, timber sawn by steam-powered sawmills, and timber sawn with high-speed blades. All the different parts of the building date from about 1832 through to 1950s. The earliest weatherboards were just 3/4 inch planks of about 8 inches high, and in their crudest form they were used straight from the saw. But I've also seen them with beveled lead edges and also with a thumb groove on the lead edge, made with a simple steel scraper, and also with the face side hand planed. If you're looking at buying a house with any of these boards and they are attached with diamond head iron nails, then you were looking at a very old and very rare thing indeed. The next weatherboard to be used was not one from here, but one imported from the east coast of America. From the 1830s, large quantities of softwood such as Oregon, western red cedar and deal were imported for the use in joinery, structural timbers and weatherboards. All this stopped dead in 1869 when the Pacific Railway was completed, connecting Oregon and California with the major population centres of the west coast such as New York and Pennsylvania, providing a more profitable market for the timber millers of the east. By then steam-powered mills were relatively common in Australia, and sawing and planing timber was far less labour intensive. The imported bullnose shape was maintained, but in local hardwood. The use of weatherboards in housing really started off as a poor cousin to bricks. More often than not in the 1800s it was used because of its availability close to the building site. So in areas of Tasmania with stands of good timber, such as the Huon Valley, the Tasman Peninsula and the northwest coast, weatherboard houses became the more common type. So what started off as a purely functional material for functional buildings ended up being used in a whole range of buildings, from social housing through to the grandest weatherboard mansion. Now if you want to find really fantastic weatherboard mansions, Trevellyn in Launceston is the place to go. Here we've got a classic issue with old weatherboard houses. They haven't been maintained. This has got a downpipe at the top of the wall. It's spilling water, it's running down around the wall. It's rotting all these weatherboards out. Very hard to fix now. Down the bottom, the water off the downpipe is splashing up and it's rotting out the base of the board because it's right close to the ground. Classic problem. The other issue with weatherboards is their energy efficiency. Timber in itself has a good resistance to the transference of heat, but their nature allows considerable air leakage, and this renders whatever insulation value they have as irrelevant. So the main issue is air leakage. Most weatherboard houses do not have any insulation in the walls and are not likely to have any wrapping paper either. Stop the air leakage and a fair part of the insulation problem is solved, so fixing up cracks and keeping the exterior paint in good condition is a good start. To really get the insulation value up to what is acceptable today will take more intrusive actions. If renovations are being undertaken, it is worth stripping parts of the cladding off and installing insulation. The other way is to inject pre-expanded foam into the walls, which will stop all air leakage and provide an R value of about R2.9 plus the value of the timber. This is the most effective way of making existing weatherboard walls energy efficient. In the cold climates of North America, this has been done since the 1950s and is now becoming more available in Australia. Now just a quick look at weatherboard houses in Tasmania. Firstly, the Huon Valley is a popular area for tree changes. Plenty of lush green grass and thus good rainfall, and plenty of weatherboard buildings built from the 1890s, cottages through to modern homes clad in timber siding. Watch out for timber close to the ground, resulting in rotted bottom plates and thus expensive repairs. Make sure the guttering and the downpipes are in good condition. The same advice goes for the Tasman Peninsula and the northwest coast, also popular tree change areas with good rainfall. The east coast of Tasmania is attractive for its beaches and sunny weather. The weatherboard buildings here are built from the 1940s onwards. You will not find the elaborate Victorian homes here. The rainfall is less than in the previous areas, and thus I generally see fewer badly degraded timber buildings. But again, it is worth looking to the guttering, the downpipes, the level of the ground in relation to the timber, and the state of the paint and the filling. The Midlands of Tasmania has a lot of heritage buildings, and a few of these are early weatherboard houses, and many of the old homesteads will have weatherboard outbuildings. The low and predictable rainfall of the Midlands means that there are some well-preserved buildings, regardless of whether they have been maintained or not. But again, look for the gutterings, ground and paintwork. And lastly, Launceston. This town is, without exception, the best preserved and intact Victorian early Federation city in Australia. There are some absolutely fantastic examples of weatherboard architecture, but again, look at the gutters, the ground and the paint. If they have been well maintained, they will be good. However, if they are big houses built on slopes overlooking the Tamar River, I would strongly recommend you get an expert to have a look to ensure that they are structurally sound. Now, just to recap, the 4 points you need to consider when buying a weatherboard house in Tasmania are: firstly, understand what period it's from. Understand the nature of the building. Secondly, accept that there's going to be a lot of maintenance with a weatherboard house. It's just unavoidable. Thirdly, consider the amount of insulation that's in the building and what you may need to do. And fourthly, remember to check these things: the guttering, the downpipes, how well maintained the weatherboards are for cracks and gaps between them. And thirdly, where does the ground level lie in relation to the lowest part of the weatherboard? Is it covering it or not? If you follow these simple guidelines, then investing in a weatherboard house should be just the same as investing in any other house. So that's all for episode 8. Feel free to contact me if you need any extra advice, and remember, if you need a pre-purchase inspection or building advice, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thanks very much.